All right. Well, people know him. Ryan Sides and them is out there.
Surely somebody will point him in the right direction.
Yeah.
You look for, didn't have the edge for that one.
I
Yeah.
had to get pointed here.
That.
I'm getting ready to go.
I had to point myself here when I got here. I'm like, where are we gonna go that ain't loud? And in our basement down there, they got like half the instruments. Basically whatever they set up on the stage is all kind of pushed down there.
You know,
So
nobody down there cares about us. It's only us 10 people that care about us.
that's right. I like it that way too. All right, so we'll finish chapter 47. We're going to go verses 28 to 31. And then Russell's going to take over in chapter 48. And then we'll do 49 and 50. Most of today is actually going to be in chapter 49. I actually, for once, have like 2 chapters on one page. And that usually there's like 3 pages per chapter. So there wasn't a whole lot except there in 49. So 47, verse 28.
Right.
Jacob lived in Egypt 17 years, and the years of his life were 147. When the time drew near for Israel to die, he called for his son Joseph and said to him, "If I have found favor in your eyes, put your hand under my thigh and promise that you will show me kindness and faithfulness. Do not bury me in Egypt." So we remember that hand under the thigh, like that's been the way they've been doing yeah, ever since the beginning. It's just something that they do. So 17 years he has lived in Egypt, Jacob. You remember when he took his whole family in Egypt? He's been there 17 years. And it's kind of neat, but Joseph was 17 when his brothers sold him. So, and then now he got 17. So he only got Joseph, first 17 years of Joseph's life, Joseph and Jacob together, and then the last 17 years of their lives together. And then that hand thing, what I had wrote down is it was all the way back in Genesis 24, the first time we heard him do that pledge or, whatever, the swearing under their thigh there. And then verse 30. But when I rest with my fathers, carry me out of Egypt and bury me where they are buried. So if you can remember when we learned about Rachel, Abraham, Isaac, all of them are buried in that one place. Then I think Ben actually looked it up, and you can still go see where Abraham's tomb is nowadays. And didn't you say there's a Domino's or a Subway right beside it now?
That was the well.
Oh, that was the well. Okay, that was the well. All right. Dang.
But I mean, the tomb might be there too.
Yeah, it might be. But he just did not want to be in Egypt in the foreign land. And then 31, swear to me, he said. Then Joseph swore to him, and Israel worshipped as he leaned on top of his staff. All right, so my translation then of he says, and he leaned on top of his staff. Others say, I got it in my footnotes, bowed down at the head of his bed.
Yeah, that's what I got in my.
Yeah, so it's really meaning picture a staff, okay, and he's standing up and he's got the staff and he's just kind of leaning on it. So it's a bow, but it's not a whole completely get down on your knees and kind of bow. And the reason that this is put in here, too, whether if it's bow down at the bed or the staff, the one translation I was reading that had bow down at the bed, they actually put in there, well, it's more likely the whole staff situation. But this actually then completes his dream where Jacob is finally bowing down to Joseph, the dream that he had. Remember the stars, his mom and all that? So like that is fulfilling that dream. And then actually the reason, and I don't know why some of them translations keep the bed thing, because if you actually go to the New Testament in Hebrews, believe it or not, this comes back up in Hebrews 11:21. It says, by faith, Jacob, when he was dying, blessed each of Joseph's sons and worshipped as he leaned on top of his staff. So they used the same verbiage. So that's why even the translations that I was reading that said talk about the bed, they feel like it's probably this staff leaned on top of his staff, because Hebrews uses the same verbiage. All right, so now we got Jacob getting ready to die, and he's telling Joseph, hey, when I die, just don't bury me in Egypt. And now we're going to take it over to Russell.
48. Sometime later, Joseph was told, your father is ill. So he took his 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, along with him. When Jacob was told, "Your son Joseph has come to you," Israel rallied his strength and sat up in the bed. Jacob said, "Joseph, God Almighty appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan, and there he blessed me, and he said to me, I am going to make you fruitful, increase your numbers, and I will make you a community of people. And I will give this land as an everlasting promise, everlasting possession to your descendants after you. Now then, your 2 sons born to you in Egypt before I came to you here will be reckoned as mine. Ephraim and Manasseh will be mine, just as Reuben and Simeon are mine. Any children born to you after them will be yours in the territory you inherit. They will be reckoned under the names of their brothers." So even though Jacob was sick, he rallied his strength to greet his kids, well, his grandkids, knowing the blessing them would be important, going as far as adopting them, signifying their place in the 12 tribes. This ensures Joseph's portion in Canaan, and Joseph being represented doubly in the 12 tribes. So Joseph was, even though he wasn't a member of the 12 tribes, he was still represented. 48:7. As I was returning to Paddan, to my sorrow, Rachel died in the land of Canaan, while we were still on the way a little distance from Ephrath. So I buried her there beside the road to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. The only thing I can say about this verse is, it's Jacob remembering Rachel's death and cementing the importance of family. If you think about it, family's pretty important. If you go all the way back to, I don't know, I just lost my train of thought.
Hey, join the club on that. It happens all the time.
48:8 to 16. When Israel saw the sons of Joseph, he asked, "Who are these?" "They are the sons God has given me," Joseph said to his father. Then Israel said, "Bring them to me so I may bless them." Now Israel's eyes were failing because of his old age, and he could hardly see. So Joseph brought his sons close to him, and his father kissed them and embraced them. Israel said to Joseph, "I never expected to see your face again, and now has allowed me to see your children too." Then Joseph removed them from Israel's knees and bowed down with his face to the ground. And Joseph took both of them, Ephraim on his right toward Israel's left, and Manasseh on his left towards Israel's right, and brought them close to him. But Israel reached out his right hand and put it on Ephraim's head, though he was the younger, and crossing his arms, put his left hand on Manasseh's head, even though Manasseh was the firstborn. Jacob switched his hands from, the most important being the youngest to the oldest. This is continuing the pattern that we've seen in previous chapters, even going all the way back to Abraham, because, I feel like Isaiah was younger than Ishmael, and he got the blessing from Abraham, and then so on and so forth,
Who were the twins? Was that Jacob and Esau?
Yeah.
And then, so Jacob was really the younger one, right?
Yeah.
And then he's got the blessing. So yeah, it has been a trend.
this shows that this proves that God's ways not always our ways, and it's not always what we expect. But I mean, God, put it on to Jacob that, hey, the youngest is going to be more prominent.
So really they're changing traditional ways, aren't they?
Right.
That's when you say the word tradition, Rich. That makes me think. All these traditions churches have. I don't think God cares much about our traditions.
No, yeah.
Change it.
17. When Joseph saw his father placing his right hand on Ephraim's head, he was displeased. So he took hold of his father's hand.
You skipped a couple, Russell. 15
No,
and
he-
16.
I'm sorry. I did. 15. Then he blessed Joseph and said, "May the God before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac walked faithfully, the God who has been my shepherd all my life to this day, the angel who delivered me from all harm, may he bless these boys. May he bless these boys. May they be called by my name and the names of my father Abraham and Isaac." I'm glad you brought that up because nope, that's a different verse, sorry. 17. When Joseph saw his father placing his right hand on Ephraim's head, he was displeased, so he took hold of his father's hand and moved it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's head. Joseph said to him, "No, my father, this one is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head." But his father refused and said, "I know, my son, I know. He too will become a people, and he too will become great. Nevertheless, his younger brother will be greater than he, and his descendants will become a group of nations." Joseph tried correcting him, but Jacob still insists on prophesizing that both will become important or great, but Ephraim will exceed Manasseh. So, in one of the commentaries I read that Ephraim actually becomes another name for Israel, like when they become when they become the 12 tribes, they kind of separate from like north and south, and the Ephraim becomes like North Israel. 20. He blessed them that day and said, "In your name will Israel pronounce this blessing. May God make you like Ephraim and Manasseh." So he put Ephraim ahead of Manasseh. Then Israel said to Joseph, "I am about to die, but God will be with you and take you back to the land of your fathers, and to you I give one more ridge of land than to your brothers, the ridge I took from the Amorites with my sword and bow." I really don't have much on the end there, but I do want to point out that, where does it say it? I'm lost again.
What are you looking for?
There's a point where Jacob says that, there it is. The God who has been my shepherd all my life to this day. That's the first time God has been named as a redeemer, deliverer, or a savior, or a shepherd.
I had that exact same note. And then what's cool to think about is this. Where did I have that? Hundreds of years later, Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd. But so we hear it for the first time right here in Genesis 48.
Back to you, Brandon.
All right, I only have one other thing to add. So we'll get into more of the tribes here when we get into 49. But the only other thing I want to add in verse 16 is when it says, the angel who has delivered me from all harm. Because he was going through talking about God being the shepherd. And now it says, the angel who has delivered me from all harm. If you can remember back to Lot, okay, the three angels to come, or the one angel and the two, they were three angels. And one, we believe, was a pre-incarnated version of Jesus. That's because in mine it's capitalized, and everything that I was reading thinks that this, when it says the angel, is that same pre-incarnated Jesus that was there with Lot. And then the angel Jesus left Lot, and then the other two then went with him into the city. And then remember the other guys were trying to rape him. And then Pat's like, "What do you keep talking about that for?" I just wrote right in there, Pat. So yeah, that's the only other thing I wanted to bring up is that when that capital angel right there, a lot of people thought that was a pre-incarnated, another version of Jesus. So I think this would be good to hand out. So Tom had made these. These are maps, a map of Israel. Yeah, there'd be a lot of back of the Bibles too, and it's good to have in front of you because we're going to get ready and talk about here in chapter 49 the blessings of these sons, okay, which turn out to be the 12 tribes of Israel, and then a lot of them just disappear off of history. So they kind of split them up between the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. And I know I've said this before, but just for others that maybe hadn't heard it or been in here, the northern kingdom tribes, like as historians, as people right now in the world, we don't know where they have all went. We have lost track of them. But God has kept track of them because we're going to get into it later. But in Revelations, these 12 tribes come back into play. So God has kept track of them. I mean, who knows? Russell could be a descendant from, let's pick one, Naphtali. I mean, we have no idea. The only ones, so when we think of the Israel, like modern day Israel and Jews, whatever you want to call them right now, they're mostly from the tribe of Judah. That's really because the other one in the southern kingdom, which I guess according to this was Simeon, so they kind of merged together, and those are and Judah kind of overtook Simeon. They just kind of basically became one under Judah, and they're the only ones that we still know of. So when we think of modern day Israel, most of them have all come from the line of Judah, and so you got 11 others that have kind of just disappeared over the course of history, but they're still out there. They just might not even know it. So. All right, so let's get into 49. Good job, Russell. Thank you. All right, 49 verse 1 says, Then Jacob called for his sons and said, Gather around so I can tell you what will happen to you in days to come. Okay, that means days to come. I mean, it's going to be like, this is basically meaning prophecy because this is stuff that's going to happen years and years later.
The last days.
Yeah. And even through the Old Testament and then all the way through basically to the end. So he's going to give a blessing to his sons here. Let me kind of give a little back thing too. So if you ever want something to study, okay, and have your mind crazy and get all distracted and stuff, try to study these 12 tribes of Israel because the list that we're going through now, other places, it's not the same list, and we're going to read another list that's in Revelations that's not the same list, but sometimes we get brothers, and it just, okay, so study the 12 tribes, and if you can figure it all out, let me know. Because Joseph, like Russell alluded to in chapter 48, Joseph does not have his own tribe. It's the tribe of Ephraim and the tribe of Manasseh, because since Jacob pretty much adopted his kids, like legally they're his, they're Rachel's, in their culture, like they would have been Rachel and Jacob's kids, not Joseph's kids anymore once he adopted them. So they each get a tribe, and Joseph doesn't. His tribe is basically half of Ephraim and half of Manasseh, and that would be like you combine those two together, that would be the Joseph tribe, but it's really his two sons. So that's where, like, that's what I'm telling you, that you got to really, this stuff is just gets crazy confusing. All right, so verse 2. Assemble and listen, sons of Jacob. Listen to your father Israel. All right, we start out with Reuben. Reuben was the firstborn. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, the first sign of my strength, excelling in honor, excelling in power. Okay, kind of put a pause right there, and then it goes on to 4. Turbulent as the waters, you will no longer excel, for you went up onto your father's bed, onto my couch, and defiled it. Okay, if you remember, he slept with one of Jacob's concubines. That's back in Genesis 35. So verse 3 is what Reuben should have been. Okay, and then verse 4 is what he turned out to be. And this goes back to what we say, or I say a lot, sin always matters. He slept with his, I guess stepmomish, whatever you kind of want to call it, but still, it was still sin. And it can be forgiven. Like Reuben was obvious, he's going to get a tribe, and it can be forgiven by God, but still, there's still a consequence to it. All right, then Simeon and Levi, they get kind of put together here, verse 5. Simeon and Levi are brothers. Their swords are weapons of violence. Let me not enter their council. Let me not join their assembly, for they have killed men in their anger and hamstrung oxen as they please. Cursed be their anger so fierce and their fury so cruel. I will scatter them in Jacob and disperse them in Israel. So Simeon, his tribe, it became the smallest tribe out of all of them. That's in Numbers 26:14. And he was also admitted from the blessings of Moses in Deuteronomy 33:8. So there's another, that in Deuteronomy, there's another blessings of Moses that list out these tribes, and there's, like, he's omitted. That's what I'm saying. These tribes are crazy hard to learn. And then later, like what I already said, Simeon is basically going to share the territory with Judah. So, like, look on Tom's map, Judah pretty much just swallows up Simeon, and it becomes just a tribe of Judah. And that's in Joshua 19, 1 through 9. All right, so then Levi, they're kind of tricky. So Levi actually became a tribe of priests, which you think, hey, that's fantastic, which it is. Okay, but they don't get their own allotment of ground like these other tribes. If you look, there's no Levi. And that's, Levi has to, they're like refugees in the city. So they go into the, like, inner parts of the cities, and that's where I guess they're preaching and whatnot. And that can be found in Numbers 35, 6 through 8. But so Levi does not get his own territory, so to say. It's just little bits and pieces here and there, and I think that's why he put, I will scatter them in Jacob and I will disperse them in Israel, because Levi don't even get his own place, and then Simeon just becomes part of Judah.
They just take care of the tabernacle and
Yeah. And so they have, what's kind of crazy is that they're priests, they have a prominent role, but yet they don't even get their own ground, you know. So it's kind of like almost like a double-edged sword for them. They're good, but yet not good.
he makes sure they're taken care of.
That's right. But what's really cool is Levi then comes back in Revelation, so which we'll get to at the end. The tribe of Levi is important in Revelation. So, all right. So, verse 8. Okay, Judah. This is the main one. Okay, this is where we're going to get Jesus, David, all that. Judah, your brothers will praise you. And that phrase right there, your brothers will praise you, that's not used for man much, okay, in Scripture. It's used for God a lot. Yeah, man's going to praise God, praise Jesus, whatever. But them phrases aren't used to describe men very often. Your hands will be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's sons will bow down to you. You are a lion's cub, O Judah. You return from the prey, my son. Like a lion, he crouches and lies down, like a lioness who dares to rouse him. The scepter will not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until he comes to whom it belongs, and the obedience of the nations is his. He will tether his donkey to a... Well, I'm going to stop there at 10.
Okay, good, because I have
Whoa, no way.
If you guys want food, you guys can go right.
Well, how can I yak with a hot dog in my
Well,
mouth?
I don't know, but
Thanks,
we
babe.
have plenty, so.
Well, good.
It comes sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can get some. I know everybody's eyeing it. Get some.
While we're pausing,
Yeah.
I talked about the anger up here in like verse 7.
Yeah, with Simeon and
Is
Levi.
that referred back, what we studied earlier?
Yeah, remember their
Did-
sister?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that the same too?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
That occurred in my mind, but I couldn't even
Yeah.
remember their name.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought.
They're the ones that killed.
Yeah.
For their,
Remember that guy raped
Raped
their
their
sister,
sister.
Dinah, and then they got mad. They just wound up killing everybody.
Yeah.
Not just the people that did. They just killed
taking their
everybody.
possessions, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That was it. Boy, that looks good. Somebody, yeah, get some. If anybody else, hey, pause 3
Everybody
minutes and
look.
get you something to eat. I don't have anything to drink with it. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Richard, because that's exactly what they were talking about with the anger.
Oh, they brought hot dogs too.
Yeah.
How am I going? I'll be spitting it all over my phone.
watch me eat a hot dog.
Oh, you tried from it.
I don't know. I didn't look at it, Ben. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
14.
8,
I count
9, 10,
14.
11, 12, 13.
14.
I got 13.
But you gotta think, there was 12
kids
kids.
Jacob?
There was 12 kids of Jacob, but then Jacob added 2 more with Ephraim and Manasseh.
Then that,
So that's 14.
Joseph's not in there,
But
but
Joseph, so there's
Manasseh
13.
and Ephraim are.
I was counting that myself.
Oh, yeah, since he adopted the 2 kids.
Right, so that makes 14.
But you said that Joseph's not on there, so 13. Right?
right, yeah, I got
Count 13
13.
or 14?
I got 13.
Well, Levi's not on, Levi doesn't have a tribe, so that makes it back to 13.
What?
Yeah, Manasseh split up, and then one side stayed on the
Oh,
other side.
yeah.
Jordan.
That's it, Ben. There's 2 Manassehs on there.
2, how come?
So there's 12. Yeah.
So they misprint.
Cause they like the
Well, because-
land was better there for their.
Yeah, because in the history of the Old Testament, they actually split on the Jordan. Is that when the priests had to cross the river, the Jordan?
Well, the whole tribe had to go fight, for them to do that, the whole tribe had to go with Israel to fight. the
Okay.
rest of- For all of Canaan,
Okay.
and they couldn't come back
Ah,
to there until they defeated everybody.
I
They got
gotcha.
to come back to their land.
so that's the stuff I wish I knew.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad we have people like him in here.
Yeah.
I'd have to go home and study again.
Did you just know that from just knowing it?
From memory or?
From reading the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other Bible study?
Yeah.
You read out the New Testament, and I don't understand what you're all saying. I'm reading out the
We
Old
was talking about the tribe of Levi.
Yeah.
That's mentioned a lot in the Bible, when, in the New Testament, even when it talks about a certain priest, and wasn't, John the Baptist, dad, a priest?
I mean, it's about 11.
Am I wrong?
Well-
Didn't they mention him as a priest in the tribe of Levi?
If I think so, maybe because I thought I had John the Baptist somewhere, but I don't remember where I put him. I might have forgot to write him down, but that might be right. John the Baptist might be from Levi. I think you're right, Richard. Okay, so while you guys eat, so you hear the song Lion of Judah, all that stuff. That's all right here, coming from right here. Jesus is the Lion of Judah. Let's see, did I have anything else on Judah? Okay, when it says in verse 8, your father's sons will bow down to you. So they have been bowing down to Joseph this whole time, because Joseph is saving their lives. But now with Jesus coming, this is foreshadowing into Jesus. Everybody should be bowing down to Jesus coming from Judah here. And then the lion, you can also find that in Isaiah. And boy, that trash stinks. Should have threw that out. We said that earlier.
Oh, yeah.
I walked in here a while ago and I about gagged a maggot. The trash, yeah.
Trash been there a while.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to open it, and I got it open, I said, oh, boy.
Yeah, it's rough.
Should have left it closed.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so another part where the lion comes into play, I'm going to read this, Revelations 5:5. To give a backstory on this, so John is seeing this picture, he's seeing this throne room, okay, and the man sitting on the throne, which is God. He's got the scroll in his hand. And he's like, is anybody worthy enough to open this scroll? And this is the scroll to the earth. Because if you think about it, Scripture tells us that Satan is actually the king, the prince of the earth right now. So God is saying, who's worthy to open this scroll? Well, John's looking around in Revelation. Nobody's worthy to open it. And then it says, oh, here comes the Lamb. He's worthy to open it. And then this is a little bit of what he sees here. Then one of the elders said to me, do not weep. See, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, because he's from the lineage of David, has triumphed. He is able to open the scroll and its 7 seals. So when God's holding this scroll, Jesus is the only one between the angels, demons, Satan, and anybody. There ain't nobody else that can take the deed to the earth except for the Lion, the tribe of Judah, and open the scroll. And then, if you go on in the Revelation, when he starts opening that scroll, that's when all the bad stuff gets ready and starts taking place. Okay, the last bit of Judah, verse 11 and 12. He will tether his donkey to a vine, his colt to the choicest branch. He will wash his garments in wine, his robes in blood of grapes. His eyes will be darker than wine, his teeth whiter than milk. Okay, nobody in their right mind is going to tether a donkey to a good vine, because the donkey's going to eat the vine. And nobody's going to wash their clothes in expensive wine and blood. So everything that I've read seems to point that these 2 verses right here is talking about the millennial kingdom, or what some people call the 1,000-year reign, however you want to look into it. Can you remember that, Russell? From Revelation? It's where a lion and a lamb will be sleeping together. It happens right before eternity, this 1,000-year reign, where everything is ruled under Jesus. As saints, if you're redeemed and you die, you will be ruling with Jesus. But these 2 verses are a lot of people that say that this is what this is talking about. That things are going to be so abundant, there's going to be so much health and wealth during that time that it isn't going to matter if you're tying your donkey to a vine or where you're washing your clothes, because there's going to be so much health and wealth going on. So for 1,000 years. All right, so 13, Zebulun. We will live by the seashore and become a haven for ships. His border will extend towards Sidon. So that's pretty easy. Not really no explanation for that. Issachar, verse 14, is a raw-boned donkey lying down between 2 saddlebags. When he sees how good is his resting place and how pleasant is his land, he will bend his shoulder to the burden and submit to forced labor. So this is going to be the hardworking tribe. Like when it says he's a raw-boned donkey, it means he's a strong donkey. This will be a hardworking group of people here. Okay, so now Dan, verses 16 and 17. Dan will provide justice for his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan will be a serpent by the roadside, a viper along the path that bites the horse's heels so that its rider tumbles backwards. So that none of that sounds very good, except the part about providing justice. So Dan is going to be an aggressive tribe that will also there'll be judges. Okay, like an actual judge, guilty thing. They're going to be judges. They, however, even though they're judges, they are not going to be known for their moral stature or their religious faithfulness. They're not going to be good judges, nice judges. Yeah, and Judges 3:2 and 18:1 talk about it. 1 Kings 12:28-30 talks about it, and then 2 Kings 10:29 talks about it too. And then later, Dan will later be abandoned. It will later abandon its allotment of land. Okay, that's in Joshua 19. And then they're going to migrate north of Israel, and that's in Judges 18. You can read about that. So I think,
Back up to.
Yeah.
Back up to 14.
yeah,
So mine reads, Issachar is a raw-boned donkey lying down among the sheep pens.
so he's protecting.
Well, it's just, you just gotta word it different, it makes you have a different
Yeah.
perspective than what you had said.
Yeah,
And
maybe,
mine says different than yours.
He's lying down among the sheep pens.
so I mean, if he's the, and then it says that he'll be submit to forced labor. I mean, I'm picturing like the donkey, like we have the donkey in with the sheep to
I'm thinking-
protect.
That's
Yeah.
exactly why I brought it back
Yeah.
up, because of yours over there.
Yeah,
House.
yeah, that's right. So maybe they're going to work hard protecting the sheep. You know.
Yeah.
All right, so here's a good point. So now that we got Dan, well, no, let's go ahead and finish him. So verse 18, it says, I look for your deliverance, O Lord. Jacob kind of puts his pause of 18 in here because Dan's going to be such jerks that Jacob is just like, hey, Lord, you're deliverance. This try, like, yeah, they're yours. Because they're not going to be great. Oh, so Gad, all right, verse 19, will be attacked by a band of raiders, but he will attack them at their heels. So this actually does happen. If you go into 1 Chronicles 5, 18 through 22, and then 12, 8 through 15. Richard, if you want all these, I can give them to you. Yeah, I can get them for you. But I mean, you can actually read this story about the attack and that, what happens to Gad. All right, so 20. Asher's food will be rich. He will provide delicacies fit for a king. So this could be easily Russell. This could be your tribe. You could be making meals for the palace.
There you go.
Him and Red.
Yeah, that's right. So Asher, they occupied like a rich land, an ag land that was just rich, like good soil, and they actually did provide meals for the palace, and that's in Joshua 19, 24 through 31. Naphtali in 21 is a doe set free that bears beautiful fawns. Okay, there wasn't a whole lot on Naphtali except deer-like speed and agility was part of their military prowess. Like that's kind of how the military was known for. And they also had a beautiful land of like meadows and stuff like that. Hence the deer stuff. Let's see. Joseph. All right, so Joseph is wrote in here. Okay, it's addressed to Joseph, but it's applicable, so it's meaning like it's going to Ephraim and Manasseh, because there's no tribe of Joseph. And this is why, but in Revelation, there is a tribe of Joseph, so that's why these tribes, they're tough. All right, it says, Joseph is a fruitful vine near a spring, whose branches climb over a wall. Which bitterness archers attack him. They shot at him with hostility. Okay, that's referring back to his brothers. Okay, and all the bad stuff that has happened to Joseph. But his bow remained steady. His strong arm stayed limber because of the hand of the mighty one of Jacob. There's one name. Because of the shepherd, 2 names. The rock of Israel, that's 3 names. Because of your father's God who helps you. Because of the Almighty, that's 4 names now, who blesses you. With blessings of heavens above, blessings of the deep that lies below, blessings of the breast and the womb. Your father's blessings are greater than the blessings of the ancient mountains, than the bounty of the age-old hills. Let all these rest on the head of Joseph, on the brow of the prince among his brothers. So obviously Joseph gets the longest blessing because, I mean, he's been the favorite son. But the one thing I wanted to point out, there's 4 names for God, and that is reflective of the love that Joseph showed for God, even during all his misfortune, all his grief, all the bad stuff that's happened to him. He then uses four mighty one of Jacob. That's one that's not used a whole lot. And then of course we hear shepherd now again for the second time. All right, then 27. So this is Benjamin, Joseph's little brother. Benjamin is a ravenous wolf. In the morning he devours the prey. In the evening he divides the plunder. So that's not good either. So Benjamin is their tribe is gonna be extremely good fighters. From what I read, really good. Basically, they're archers and slingers. I mean, they're gonna be good in the military. And here's one neat point. Both Sauls come from Benjamin. So you got the Old Testament Saul, which is first king of Israel. Like when these tribes all come together, and the first king of Israel, Saul, that comes from the tribe of Benjamin. And then Saul or Paul, the apostle, comes from this tribe of Benjamin. Yeah. Yep. All right, and then 28. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel, and this is what their father said to them when he blessed them, giving each the blessing appropriate to him. All right, and then so we'll get into the death of Jacob. Verse 29. Then he gave them these instructions. I am about to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave in the field of Ephron the Hittite, the cave in the field of Machpelah near Mamre in Canaan, which Abraham bought as a burial place, if you can remember that a long time ago, from Ephron the Hittite, along with the field. There Abraham and his wife Sarah were buried. There Isaac and his wife Rebekah were buried. And then here we find out where Leah went. And there I buried Leah. The field and the cave in it were brought from the Hittites. When Jacob had finished giving instructions to his son, he drew his feet up into bed, breathed his last, and was gathered to his people. So the phrase there, gathered to his people, that's been used for all the patriarchs: Abraham, Ishmael, Isaac, and now Jacob. The main, you know what that means. Now, there was a good point that Rick kind of brought up. He blessed his children, and he's like, okay, hey, I'm done. Basically, he's like, he curled up in bed instead of going night. I mean, he died. What a good feeling knowing that his sons, though, were taken care of. And Rick uses that as a good life point about, hey, what happens if our night tonight when we go to bed is our last night? Is our family taken care of spiritually? You know what I mean? And I mean, worldly too, but mostly spiritually. Like, hey, if I pass away tonight, am I knowing can I do that knowing my family is good? So there's a good side point. All right, so we're going to get into 50. And then I got, at the end of it, I got one little off-topic thing to kind of go over. All right, so chapter 50, verse 1. Joseph threw himself upon his father and wept over him and kissed him. Then Joseph directed the physicians in his service to embalm his father Israel. So the physicians embalmed him, taking a full 40 days, for that was the time required for embalming, and the Egyptians mourned for him 70 days. So took 40 days. I mean, obviously, as embalming has come a long way, don't take 40 days nowadays.
Now, does 70 mean 70 days? Because that's what's got in my Bible.
Probably.
Three score.
That's what I'm going to go with.
3 score in 10 days.
Yeah.
So it'd be 60 and 10.
60 and 10, yeah. And then so the 70 days, that was actually an honor for the Egyptians to go that long, to weep that long, to mourn that long. So prominent pharaohs at the time would be mourned for 72 days. So they didn't want to quite give them the 72 days, but they went up to 70 days. But even any Egyptians mourning a Hebrew at that time was really good. All right, so 4 through 14. When the days of mourning had passed, Joseph said to Pharaoh's court, if I have found favor in your eyes, speak to Pharaoh for me. And he's talking to their court. Tell him, my father made me swear an oath and said, I am about to die. Bury me in the tomb I dug for myself in the land of Canaan. Now let me go up and bury my father, then I will return. Pharaoh said, go up and bury your father as he made you swear to do. So Joseph went up to bury his father, and all Pharaoh's officials accompanied him. So make note of that. The dignitaries of his court and all the dignitaries of Egypt. Besides all the members of Joseph's household and his brothers and those belonging to his father's household, only their children and their flocks and herds were left in Goshen. Chariots and horsemen also went up with him. It was a very large company. So this is a big deal. Okay, you got Egyptians, high-ranking Egyptians. You got all the family, chariots, horsemen. Everybody's going. Okay. Verse 10, when they reached the threshing floor of Atad near the Jordan, they lamented loudly and bitterly. And there Joseph observed a 7-day period of mourning for his father. When the Canaanites who lived there saw mourning at the threshing floor of Atad, they said, the Egyptians are holding a solemn ceremony of mourning. That is why that place near the Jordan is called Abel Mizraim. So Jacob's sons did as he had commanded them. They carried him to the land of Canaan and buried him in the cave in the field of Machpelah near Mamre, which Abraham had bought as a burial place from Ephron the Hittite, along with the field. I like how they keep reminding him of it, because you forget those things that, oh yeah, this was from that guy.
Any idea where that's at on the map?
Mm-mm.
Yes, sir. There's a mosque there. If I looked up.
No, on this map.
Oh, on the map, it's in, let's see, it was in between, it was south of Jerusalem, or, in between, just above Israel. I'm trying to look at a regular map, but on this map, it'd be in Hebron, close to there.
Hebron. Okay. And this is where Ben looked.
West of the Dead Sea.
This
I
is
just looked it up a little bit ago, too. This is a new one.
Oh, really?
There's no dominoes next to this one, but it is a mosque that several of the religious leaders, it's still open, it has a phone number and everything, go look.
So it don't have a Domino's though beside it. So what was the first one we seen?
That was the well.
That was the well. Oh yeah. God, see, you keep having to remind me of all this. I'm glad you're
This one
here.
is a mosque now, you can visit it or whatever.
So the burial place is like a mosque, and then the well he dug, it's got a Domino's.
Next to it.
Yeah, okay, that's pretty
There.
cool. Oh. All right, so after 14, after burying his father, Joseph returned to Egypt together with his brothers and all the others who had gone with him to bury his father. And I'm assuming they got to go back to Egypt because I guess the famine's still going on, and like, hey, this is where we got to live for now. So picture this before we get into Exodus. Like, you had all the Hebrew people in Canaan, in the promised land, but then famine came and then made them move all into Egypt, and then that's basically then going to be where Exodus starts. Eventually, Jacob, before he died, has promised Joseph that, hey, all your people is going to get back over to the promised land. It's just going to take hundreds of years to get it done. So, 15. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, and we read this before, what if Joseph holds a grudge against us and pays us back for all the wrongs we did to him? So it's still in the back of their minds, they're still worried about a little revenge. 16. So they sent word to Joseph saying, your father left these instructions before he died. This is what you are to say to Joseph. I asked you to forgive your brothers the sins and the wrongs they committed in treating you so badly. Now please forgive the sins of the servants of the God of your father. When their message came to him, Joseph wept. Okay, so there's no record of Jacob actually telling these brothers that. Okay, so nobody knows, are they just making this up? Because they send it by messenger, okay? They're not even going to Joseph themselves and being like, oh, hey, now that Dad's dead, he did tell us to tell you not to, kill us or hurt us. So, but they're sending a messenger to do it. And there's no record of Jacob actually telling them that, hey, we need to tell Joseph not to harm you when something happens to me. So we don't really know. But either way, they were still worried. And says Joseph wept when he got the message. Now, is he weeping because he can't believe after all this time his brothers still think that he's going to take a revenge out on him, or we don't know why he's leaving. That seems logical. That, oh my gosh, he's just hurt. Like, well, how could you think after what we've been through last 17 years, I have taken care of you, and you still think I'm going to harm you? All right. So 18, his brothers then came and threw themselves down before him. We are your slaves, they said. But Joseph said to them, don't be afraid. I am am I in the place of God? So basically Joseph said, I'm not God. Okay, that's what he's trying to say. You intended to harm me, and this Joseph knows what exactly has happened. But God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. So we've learned that, we went over it, and this is exactly what all this is went on for. So then, don't be afraid. I will provide for you and your children. And he reassured them and spoke kindly to them. Okay, so he's making sure, hey, I ain't going to do nothing about you, or nothing to you. So 22 through 26. Joseph stayed in Egypt along with his father's family. He lived 110 years and saw the third generation of Ephraim's children. Also the children of Machir, son of Manasseh, were placed at birth on Joseph's knee. Then Joseph said to his brothers, I am about to die, but God will surely come to your aid and take you up out of this land, because they're still in Egypt, to the land he promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And Joseph made the sons of Israel swear an oath and said, God will surely come to your aid, and then you must carry my bones up from this place. So Joseph died at the age of 110, and after they embalmed him, he was placed in a coffin in Egypt. Okay, now if you're like me, he's in a coffin in Egypt. Why didn't they just go ahead and carry him up to Canaan and bury him where he's supposed to be? I don't know why, okay? But 110 years in Egypt, as old as he was deemed perfect. That was a perfect lifespan to the Egyptians, 110. And then he died, put in a coffin in Egypt. Nobody moved him. We don't know why. Like now, when they've come back from burying Jacob, it's like they can't leave anymore for some reason.
I guess something on that. It said at Joseph's death, he was placed in a coffin in the fashion of the Egyptians. Moses and Joseph's remains carried from Egypt during the Exodus.
Yeah. So Joseph's remains come out of Egypt in Exodus 13:19. Moses, it's almost 4 centuries later. Moses is finally going to get him out of Egypt. And then Joshua will actually finally bury him at Shechem. Yeah. And that's in Joshua 24:32. So that's a slow walk. That's God moving slow right there. And maybe that's why they didn't, leave, or what they're waiting for God to tell them to leave. Because I do want to point this out. So just the first few verses of Exodus. So we know there's a gap now between Genesis and Exodus. It says, these are the names of the sons of Israel who went to Egypt with Jacob. And then it gives the list of names. In verse 6, it says, now Joseph and all his brothers and all that generation died, but the Israelites were fruitful and multiplied greatly and became exceedingly numerous, so that the land was filled with them. And then this is what starts it. Then a new king, so a new Pharaoh, who did not know about Joseph, came to power in Egypt. And then then it goes on that he was worried about, hey, these Israelites, they can start taking us over. So that's what happened. Stories of Joseph probably went on for a while, and the new pharaohs were like, hey, this is a good guy. Yeah, you guys just keep doing whatever you're doing. Well, finally, the story fades away, and the new the new king is like, I don't know about these guys here. Like, we need to get these people out. So then that all kind of starts. And it's even just simple things like that is what I don't know until I actually start reading some of this stuff myself and learning. All right, so the other little side thing I got. So when Jacob died, we seen that was a big event. There was all kinds of people that followed him, the chariots, the horsemen. It's a real big deal. Because they call him patriarch. He was a patriarch for Israel. And so we all aren't Jacobs, okay? And I don't know if anybody knows about the story of Stephen, but we all can be Stephens, okay? Stephen was, but just to sum it up, basically Stephen was in charge of the food pantry. Okay, that was his job, okay? So I'm going to read a few different stories about death. And does anybody know the Ananias and Sapphira story? Okay, I don't even know if I wrote that down where it is. It's in Acts. Both of these are going to come from Acts. So Ananias and Sapphira, when the church was getting ready to start, after Jesus went up into heaven, when the church was getting ready to start, people were selling their ground, okay? And Ananias and Sapphira was some of the people that were going to sell their ground. Well, they come up with this thing and was like, hey, when we sell our ground, let's just give the church, not all of it like everybody else is doing. We're just going to get part of it.
Now I remember.
Yeah. Okay,
They
so
don't get a good deal.
yeah, and this is a husband and wife thing, and this is in Acts 5 if you want to find it. But I'm just going to sum it up because you can make a men's lesson out of this too. Because Ananias, or the man, I don't even know which one's the man. Ananias. Yeah, Ananias is the man. When you got names like that. But like he was not being the spiritual leader of his house. He's teaching his wife to lie. So Ananias goes to the church, gives them some money, and the dude at the church is like, hey, is this all of it? And he's like, yeah, this is all the money that we got for selling the ground. Boom, he's dead. God kills him dead right there. And then he didn't teach his wife, and apparently they didn't have very good friends. Nobody warned his wife. She goes into the church and gives up what she's supposed to. And they're like, is this all of it? And she's like, yeah, boom, she's dead. Okay? I had this in the other Bible. Okay. Verse 10 of chapter 5 in Acts. It says, at that moment she fell down at his feet and died. Okay? So they're both dead for lying to the church. And it says, here's the part I want to point out. Then young men came in and finding her dead, carried her out and buried her beside her husband. So young men, not men of stature, not the greatest youth kids that it has. It just says young men. And in that culture, young men weren't all that awesome. Okay, they're not aged. Because these people were sinners, they're liars, they were deceivers. God struck them dead. Young men carried them away. So then, just flip over to chapter 7. Okay, talks, chapter 6 and 7. Stephen, okay? They chose Stephen to do this job. So basically, like I said, just think of it as like he's in charge of the food pantry, okay? They chose Stephen, a man, and it says, chapter 6, verse 5, they chose Stephen, a man full of faith and of the Holy Spirit. Okay, that is why they chose Stephen for this job. He is full of faith and of the Holy Spirit. Okay, well, Stephen gets stoned to death by I don't know, whoever did it, the bad people. Okay, yeah. So Stephen gets stoned for being a follower of Christ. Okay, and when he's getting stoned, if you want to go to chapter 7, verse 54. It says, when they heard this, they were furious and gnashed their teeth at him. But Stephen, full of the Holy Spirit, looked up to heaven and saw the glory of God. And this is the part. Jesus standing at the right hand of God. You always hear Jesus is seated at the right hand of the God. But Stephen was so full of the Holy Spirit, such a godly man, that Jesus actually stood up in heaven for Stephen. To where Ananias and Sapphira was carried off by just some young men. And then, so the last part I want to go down to 8, just a few verses down, 8 verse 2. So after Stephen was stoned and died, it says, chapter 8 verse 2, godly men buried Stephen and mourned deeply for him. So you got Jacob, it was a huge deal when he died. I mean, you got Egyptians going together, going to bury him, okay? You got Stephen, when he's dying, Jesus is actually standing up for him in heaven, right next to God, because he was so full of the Holy Spirit. And it says godly men buried Stephen and mourned deeply for him. And then you got people like Ananias and Sapphira that, just some young men will do, just carry him off.
He said he was the first Christian martyr.
Yep. Yep.
Stephen.
So even though you might think, well, I'm not no patriarch of Christianity or anything like that, but like I said, we could all be a Stephen, or we could be Ananias and Sapphira. It's our choice. But I heard this at a men conference. Now, when you die, will just young men carry you off? You know, we have pallbearers a lot of times now. You're gonna just pick. Is it just going to be some young men of no stature, or is godly men going to carry you off and place you in your burial site? So that was a good story. I've heard that a year or so ago, and that just has stuck with me. You know, the whole and the other. I remember I can even turn to it in the Bible that I took to that men's conference where the guy was talking about it, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's so fantastic. You know what I mean? Comparing the two. One, he brought up a good men's message just with the Ananias and Sapphira. You know, the man should have been leading that, and he didn't. But then talking about burying him too, and I'm just like, whew. So when you die, what kind of men do you want carrying your body off?
A lot.
Yeah, Russell.
Three on each side.
Oh goodness.